Opinionated. It's Wednesday night. I'm Herman Phillip, and I am your host. And as always, we are the only sports show where your opinion matters. Before we get started, my very special guest tonight, I have the shout out to Chelsea fans. Guess what? You've won 2 or is it 3 games in a row? Who cares? And of course, Man U, it's always better to be lucky than good. I mean, when Maguire and McTominay is your self-defense plan to score 2 goals in the last minute, you better take it. And Arsenal fans are right now feeling themselves. They've never been happier. They finally got a victory. They finally got a victory over Man City. Is it fleeting or is it something to build on? Tottenham doesn't think so. Let's get ready to rumble. Tonight's guest, Heinrich Anselm, the team manager of the Dominica men's national team. Welcome to Opinionated.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having me here.
How are you enjoying your little stay in St. Lucia? This is your second time, right? In a short stay.
Well, I've been, yes, it's my second time in 2023. Yes.
Heinrich, how did you get involved in becoming a manager of the national team?
Well, firstly, I'm president of the Bombers Football Club in Dominica, and I got elected to the board of the Dominica Football Association. And part of the policy of being a manager is that you have to be a board member. So I got exposed to management in 2013. Was my first stint. I was the under-20 team manager for the CFU under-20s in Antigua.
So you come from a footballing background?
Yes, I must say that, yes.
You've been impassioned by football growing up, is that what it is? Or you just...
Well, I played football at club level back home, and I'm also very highly involved in club administration with the Bombers Football Club in Dominica, and on the national setup also.
For those who don't know, what are the responsibilities or what is the role of a manager at a national level? Not just at club level, but at a national level.
Well, the ultimate role is to ensure that the players and staff are very comfortable. And comfort is very essential, especially for national players, to release that stress of the non-footballing aspect. So the team manager primarily has to ensure that their accommodation is adequate, and their meals, etc., their equipment, and even their stipends that they receive, that they are very comfortable, and they feel a lot of pride in representing their country.
So for those who don't know, the stipends, they get them after the tournament or before?
Well, for us, we give it before. It's kind of a motivator. I mean, if we travel, some persons would prefer to use their stipends to do a little shopping here and there, and so on.
In terms of a national player on national duty, is it a regimen that they train all day, or do you give them time off for them to go out and stay comfortable, so to speak, get familiar with their surroundings?
Well, we train at least once for the day, especially on tour. But and also at home, we train once, usually in the late evenings. Yeah.
In terms of your personal attributes, because you've been doing this for a while and you're probably good at it, what do you think are the attributes you need to be effective at your role?
Well, firstly, you have to have a lot of patience, because you have a number of players and staff with different personalities. You have to ensure you manage that well. You have to be also very reliable, because players have to rely on you for different resources. Eye for detail, planning in advance, etc. You know, it's a lot of work, and you have to also be very dedicated and very patient.
Okay, let's talk Nations League right now. All right.
Sure.
Walk us through the journey of 2023 Dominica's participation in the CONCACAF Nations League.
Well, in 2023, we started training in June, in preparation for our first match on September 12th, and we've trained practically 3 times a week in preparation, and we played our first match against the Turks and Caicos, and we beat them 3-0.
Basking in the glory. But let's go back a bit further. Yeah. Before you got to success, there were some trying times. You entered, and of course you played St. Lucia twice. And yes, what did you learn from these 2 matches about your team? What were the teachable moments?
Well, I would say maybe for St. Lucia, we were a bit complacent considering they did not participate in World Cup qualifiers, and they had, I would say, some infighting in the camp, or just kind of, in other words, we felt like the team was a little bit shaky, and we were very confident coming against St. Lucia, and then they beat us 1-0 in Roseau, so we felt it was a very unlucky loss, and we felt like we could beat St. Lucia. And we have beaten St. Lucia in the past, in the UEFA tournament. So, but generally we have been beaten more by St. Lucia than we have actually beaten them.
Well, I think it's cyclical. I think, ebb and flow as time goes on. But again, like you said, infighting and a couple of issues. But of course, you mentioned the comfort factor as a general manager. So what was your plan, your modus operandi to solve these issues, to put you in a better frame of mind that you can come out victorious as you move on the line?
Well, I have difficulty in the question.
So, okay, basically what I'm trying to figure out is you figured out what the issues were, right?
With St. Lucia?
With the Dominican
Dominican
team,
team, yeah.
when they had these two losses. As you said, as a manager, your job is to put everybody's mind at ease, to deal with the non-footballing aspects.
Yes,
What did you use as your strategy to get them back on the right frame of mind, right thought patterns?
Well, I had to work closely with the coach. And the coach, we had a few team building activities to get players up and running again. And we just continued to train. And made a few changes also. I see the coach also brought in some new blood. And we just built from that.
Let's talk about the BVI game, right? Sorry, the Six and Caicos game. That game you were successful. What is your assessment of your team's performance?
Well, in that performance, I believe we scored a lot of chances, but we got 3 goals. But it showed that we had some improvement in our attacking, and that was maybe lacking in this St. Lucia game and so on. So we have a new striker now, in the name of Troy Jones, a very eager young man, and we believe that he can propel us to go in further in the CONCACAF Nations League. We have also brought in some younger players, and they have been gelling quite well together for our veteran striker, Julian Wade, and we are hopeful that we'll get some results.
I want to come back to Troy just now, but let's focus on the game. And of course, as any coach will tell you, any management team, that even in your best wins, there are things that you think you could have worked on.
Sure.
What do you think that you could improve moving forward?
Well, the finishing. We were very, very complacent also against the Turks and Caicos, and I believe that cost us a lot of goals. We should have really sent them a message by going all out and getting a better result. We won 3-0, but fans and even management believe that we should have scored more goals.
You wanted to whitewash the fellas, man. So after the Turks and Caicos, you went back to the drawing board. You saw where your errors are. What are you thinking is the game plan for the BVI?
Well, for the BVI, we are hoping that our fitness level will be more superior to theirs, and to actually possess the ball a little more and get the goals in.
In terms of not playing at home, you're not at Roseau, you're not in your comfort zone, but you're in St. Lucia. Are there any things that you put in place in terms of getting the guys being used to St. Lucia, making it home? I mean,
to tell the truth, we are used to St. Lucia. We feel comfortable in St. Lucia. We played at the Darren Sammy before, against St. Lucia, and we actually stay in the same hotel, same taxi. So, in other words, we are just repeating the same process.
In terms of, you mentioned Troy.
Yes.
As one of your standout players.
Yes.
Right? Tell us a bit about Troy.
Well, Troy is Antiguan born. His father is from Dominica.
And you're claiming him before Antigua?
Well, apparently Antigua did not want him. So from what he told us, he engaged the Antigua FA on a number of occasions, and he was unsuccessful. And he just reached out to our coach. We assisted him in getting his passport, and he came over. In addition to that, his club, Mount Pleasant FC in Jamaica, the coach from that club engaged our national team coach to get him his passport and to get him engaged. So after all that, he came on board, and he met the billing.
So Mount Pleasant, of course, as we know, defending champions in Jamaica this year. That's a quality team, and professional footballers. Let's talk about integrating professional players like Troy into the Jamaican squad. Has it been easy?
Well, it was kind of difficult at first because of the type of player he is. He usually is one of the point players, and he holds the ball a little bit. And but on the national team, he has to distribute a little more. So gelling took a little time at first, especially in training, but eventually they got the final recipe, and they are gelling right now.
I like that way. So you're the chef.
No, I'm not the chef. I'm not speaking on what the chef said.
Okay. In terms of Troy and playing for a professional league in Jamaica, is he the only foreign-based player you have on the team?
No, we have Julian Wade. He's playing for Formartine in the Scottish Highland League. It's a non-league football, but he's one of our foreign-based. And we also had former players who played foreign-based football. In Brian Thomas, our vice-captain, combative midfielder. He played for W Connection in Trinidad. And we also had Glenson Prince, who played for, I'm not too sure if it's Caledonia in Trinidad, and also Fedu Canal in Guadeloupe. And Julian Wade also played in Guadeloupe professional.
Do you think it's necessary or beneficial to your player, the foreign-based ones, to play in these other leagues?
Yes, they bring extra quality because our national league is amateur league, so that quality of that level of coaching and so on, preparation, physical, mental, technical, it will not be the same as on a professional setting, and I believe that is what our local league is lacking, that level of technical ability from the coaches and even the staff in preparing players.
When you traveled, so right now you've been traveling the region, and you've traveled internationally as well, and you assess the quality of your team, right? Do you think that whatever gap, is there a gap?
Yes, there is a gap. Notwithstanding, we played Panama and they beat us 3-1, and they were very disappointed in the result, considering we have a lot of amateur players and we are playing against professional players. And one of our youngest players at the time, Ode Laville, scored against them. So we know there are gaps, but with results like that, there's still hope that if you put that extra effort, probably someday you might get a big scalp.
Is effort the only thing you think that will
No,
bridge a gap?
not just effort, but a lot of resources, coaching, education from the different various clubs. The quality of your league has to also improve. So you look at that pool of talented footballers. The fitness aspect of the players and so on, because a number of persons it's like a sweat, persons just join a club and they play football, but their physique and so on they do not look like footballers in some instances.
Stick around. We'll be right back after these messages with the team manager of the Dominica national team, Mr. Heinrich Anselm.
For the best cricket updates, analysis, and an in-depth look at the sport around the world, tune in live to Winners TV
every Tuesday from 8:30 p.m.
for Cricket Nation, the only show dedicated to cricket in St. Lucia. From the nations to the clubs, the leagues, and the players, Cricket Nation is your window to the world of cricket. So be a part of the nation.
Every Tuesday,
live from 8:30 p.m. on Winners TV.
Have Having trouble with temperature in your home or establishment? Feeling uncomfortable and need some relief? Optimum Cooling would love to help. You deserve a contractor that is experienced, skilled, and affordable. Call Optimum Cooling today. We offer a wide range of all your HVAC needs that includes maintenance, repairs, supply, installation, consultation, as well as any other refrigeration services, both domestic and commercial. At Optimum Cooling, we would love to meet with you to determine how we can help. Follow Optimum Cooling on Facebook or Instagram or visit our website today. We look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome to Winner Sports Beat.
For the most comprehensive sports news broadcast, tune in to Winner Sports Beat, weeknights at 7:30 p.m. Sports Beat features the latest scores, news highlights, and interviews that keeps sports fans informed on what's happening in sports. Winner Sports Beat captures the pulse of the sports world. Watch Sports Beat for exclusive inside information and breaking news on what's really happening behind the scenes. Sports Beat covers the big games, the big plays, and the big wins. Watch Winner Sports Beat weeknights at 7:30 p.m. with daily repeats.
So we're back with the team manager of the Dominica national team, the senior team, Mr. Heinrich Anselm, of course with the German name.
Yes.
So Heinrich, let's go back to something you mentioned earlier in terms of getting the right mentality in terms of developing a team. You've come from the Dominican club structure.
Yes.
And of course right now you've managing this team at the international level. And one of the things you mentioned earlier is that we had to move away from the mentality as, well, we knew ECS have a similar thread and we have a similar issue. The mentality of seeing it as a sweat and understanding that it's a business. You know, it's a job. In terms of the pro leagues, how far are our leagues in getting to the level of the so-called the big boys in the region? We're talking about Trinidad and I guess, you know, and their league and Jamaica as well. We both have what we call amateurs, but we realize that we have the talent that can compete.
Sure.
What do you think is necessary to get us to that level? Apart from the resources, of course.
You mean the financial resources?
Yes.
Well, firstly, I believe clubs would have to be better structured. Our clubs are not very well. I believe, I'm not sure if it's the same case in St. Lucia, but on the club structure level, some clubs, they are registered clubs with a CONCACAF license for that particular year, but they function like teams. There are no AGMs, there are no proper structures, a cadre of coaches at different levels, different teams. So you find that one particular club might be well structured, senior team, youth team, and then another club has just a first team. So firstly, we would have to develop the product on a club level, and then when we have very well-structured clubs and the football has improved, then the league ultimately will improve because the competition will be better. We have also issues where certain teams might get relegated and they might just disappear. That is because the structures are very weak. So I believe it has to start there. Before the sponsorship can come on board, the quality of the football has to improve on a club level. And not just the quality, but also the marketing of the football. Clubs do not market themselves properly, have effective Facebook pages, and a wide fan base. And clubs can have a wide fan base, especially from the diaspora and their local communities. But it is not well engaged, and I believe clubs struggle to manage themselves, and as a result of that, that has caused the quality of the football to drop. Growing up in the 80s, I'm a 70s born, but growing up in the 80s, there were fewer clubs, but they were well structured, and I grew up in a fan base of watching teams and large crowds and so on. The crowds are there, but not as large as before. But the club structures are very weak, and I believe that is where the improvement should be.
You touched on an important thing, and of course, we're all 70s babies here. You talked about the quality. There were less clubs, but better quality. And as the structures we've moved away from the structure, we just have more fellas playing football like jokers.
That is true.
Here's a question to you. Does that affect your selection at the national process, at the national level?
Yes, it does. There's a smaller pool, and then the pool of technical, it also makes your pool of technical players available very small. As a result of that, you have to look elsewhere. So, in other words, because you have very, very little technical players on the national level, foreign-based players become very attractive to you. And it becomes very expensive. You have to send for them. At a particular time, a particular player asked us to fly in VIP and to ask for his girlfriend to come and so on to get him to play on the national level. So, you are almost held at ransom because they realize your foreign players might realize, your football is not that great. I just come to help you out. But then you have to expend so much resources to get these players in. But as I mentioned earlier, the structures are good and well structured, and there'll be more talent to choose from because clubs would have academies, and the academies would eventually become first-team players, would give us first-team players that are very technical, and the pool would just be larger.
I know you touched on a very important point in terms of spending the resources at the tail end when we can send the resources probably at the beginning on the ground and see more benefit. But and we mentioned the foreign-based players looking more attractive. But let me ask you, since you're part of the management process, how do you go about? Well, I guess it's a team process selecting the foreign-based players.
Well, I'm not really involved in that aspect. The coach might get some video, or some foreign-based player might contact them, or parents of foreign-based players who would like their children to play, and that communication will go back and forth, and then there would be a trial. They would come in via a friendly. For example, we had a centre back. He's based in the UK right now, but we could not use him this time around because he has some family matters to deal with. But he got scouted when we sent for him when we played against St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a friendly. So we sent for him, he had instant impact, and then he became part and parcel of our team.
Are the foreign-based players welcomed by the local players, or is there a little animosity?
Well, the animosity would be for those where they would prevent from making the selection.
My pick.
Yes, but generally we are very welcoming and so on. I have not seen any instances of foreign-based players having difficulties with our locally based players.
You talk about the comfort factor again. Ideally, how long? Well, if a player comes in today before a match, that's not ideal. No. How long? How quick? Okay, the question I want to ask is, how much time do you need between the time he lands and the time he trades before you can use him for a match?
Well, if it's a new foreign-based player, you'd have to come a longer period in advance. But if he has played several matches, for example, Troy Jules, for example, he came about 6 days before our first match. So he trained a lot, he got familiar with the players. But this time around, we sent for him a few days in advance. This time around, but that was not the reason. We did not do that deliberately because we are not sure of his quality. He asked to come a little earlier because he wanted to mingle in Dominica and so on.
A good place to mingle.
Right. But from now on, I see us selling for him just a few days in advance because we know what he can do already.
Is there something in the budget for players and girlfriends? I just need to ask.
For budget? Well, there's no budget per se, but the FA has committed to allowing 5 foreign-based players to come in, because we still want to allow our local footballers to get the opportunity to represent Dominica, and we also want to promote our local footballers. We are not an FA that will, I will say, have a number of foreign-based players and a few local-based players. We want our local footballers to do that. And that is our policy.
So let me ask you a question. So if it's a question of talent, I mean, not without even knowing the team, if when the panel sits down, and like I say, you're not part of it, but just a question, the panel sits down and they identified 10 foreign-based players, Saudi Arabia, wherever it may be, and they're better, you wouldn't take them to maintain the balance?
We'll take 5. And any foreign-based player coming in, he will start, because he's coming in for a specific function, because he's coming to fill a deficiency in the team. So there'll be no instance where a foreign-based player would come in and he will be on the bench.
That's always the resources.
So you come in as a specialist, you know. So all our foreign-based players are specialists. They are starting tomorrow. Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay.
Excuse me.
So one of the things that we find interesting is that due to lack of resources, you know, we can't always prepare as we want. But what is your take on the value of international friendlies?
Oh, well, I will say that is great preparation for any team. And I know for sure our local footballers and the national team has pressed our football association for friendlies. And I know for sure our 2 friendlies versus St. Vincent at home, it was sufficient enough to prepare us for our CNL games, in the last season. Our performance was still dismal, considering we beat St. Vincent twice at home in 2 friendlies and could not beat Anguilla. But
well, you know, football is on the day. The strangest things will happen. The ball will bounce.
It was a bit laughable, but nonetheless, and we know friendlies are very important. From time to time, we would play Guadeloupe and so on in friendlies and Martinique.
Wouldn't you, again, cost limitations, would going further afield into, you know, the Jamaicas of the world, not that we chat, you know, but you know, the so-called benchmarks of the Caribbean, would that serve significantly more value than playing your solutions like you're in the next door neighbor? You know, we played each other how many times in how many years? But playing these teams, you know, the Jamaicas, the Haitis,
like a higher ranking team, I mean.
Would that add significantly more value to the training process?
It would, but it could also be a demotivating factor, so because you prepare for a tournament and you take a 5 or 6 against a 3 and a very high ranking team. It kind of have you demotivated also. Okay,
so with that said, what is the success metric for this team? In other words, when December 31st comes around, regardless of whether you take 5 or you give 5, what do you deem a success?
For this season?
Yeah, for this 2023 Dominica's national team.
Promotion to League B. Yes, promotion, that is our target for this season. Promotion to League B, and when we go to League B, it would be to remain in League B. Because League B is very, very hard. You have higher ranking teams in League B, and also another target I forgot to mention, to get into the Gold Cup. Because in League C, if you're the group winners, you have the opportunity to go in the qualifiers for the Gold Cup. It is much easier to go to the Gold Cup in League C than in League B, because League B, you have 4 heavy contenders like yourself.
Manage, thank you so much for spending your Wednesday evening with me. Heinrich Anselm, manager of the Dominica national team. You want to tell the people where you're going to be for the BVI match?
What's that?
Where are you going to be for the BVI match?
Well, I'll be on the bench.
Right. On what day is the BVI match?
Oh, on Thursday at the Darren Sami Cricket Ground at 5 p.m.
All right, come on and support. Stay tuned. We have a very special guest later.
All Dominicans, come out and support.
And solutions as well. Good football. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.
For the best cricket updates, analysis, and an in-depth look at the sport around the world, tune in live to Winners TV
Every Tuesday from 8:30 p.m.
for Cricket Nation, the only show dedicated to cricket in St. Lucia. From the nations to the clubs, the leagues, and the players, Cricket Nation is your window to the world of cricket. So be a part of the nation.
Every Tuesday,
Live from 8:30 p.m. on Winners TV.
Having trouble with temperature in your home or establishment? Feeling uncomfortable and need some relief? Optimum Cooling would love to help. You deserve a contractor that is experienced, skilled, and affordable. Call Optimum Cooling today. We offer a wide range of all your HVAC needs. That includes maintenance, repairs, supply, installation, consultation, as well as any other refrigeration services, both domestic and commercial. At Optimum Cooling, we would love to meet with you to determine how we can help. Follow Optimum Cooling on Facebook or Instagram, or visit our website today. We look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome to Winners Sports Beat.
For the most comprehensive sports news broadcast, tune in to Winners Sports Beat, weeknights at 7:30 p.m. Sports Beat features the latest scores, news highlights, and interviews that keeps sports fans informed on what's happening in sports. Winners Sports Beat captures the pulse of the sports world. Watch Sports Beat for exclusive inside information and breaking news on what's really happening behind the scenes. Sports Beat covers the big games, the big plays, and the big wins. Watch Winners Sports Beat weeknights at 7:30 p.m. with daily repeats.
Opinionated Wednesday night tonight. We continue for our double header, so to speak. I have with me another heavy hitter, Mr. Garvin Richards, the media officer of, is it the Dominica Football Association or is it the national team?
Men's senior national football team.
Oh, you specialize?
Yeah, specialized. Because there are other media officers for other teams.
There you go, there you go. So how did you get into media?
Well, actually I started off 23 years ago.
At what, 2?
Well, at the age of 20, so I think people can calculate my age now. But apparently, well, I wouldn't say apparently, but it started off while reading in church. And my uncle at the time, Mr. Ron Abraham, he was the chief executive officer of the main television company. And, I read so well in church one particular day. He said, well, just come in and let's try something. So straight from college, I got the first opportunity. And that's where I've been ever since. And I specialized in sports for the last 23 years, and here I am right now.
So tell me, what does a media officer for the Dominica national team do? What does it entail?
Okay. All right, so the media officer is responsible for the image of the team. That's one of the main responsibilities, to ensure that the right image of the team goes out, to control what goes out to the media from the team's point of view, to make sure that the team's message gets across. You also want to make sure that you provide an environment where, the team always has a good image, as I said. And that's basically part of it. You have to coordinate the press conferences on game day, after the game, pre-match, and yeah.
So does branding fall under your list of things?
Branding as well, in all terms of marketing the team. So you want to make sure that, the public is aware of everything that the team is doing. So, for example, the manager said that we started training in June. So from June, the training pictures, long before, the tournament would have started, you would have started to give the public little glimpses as to what's going on. Maybe not every day, but, frequent updates to keep the public interest in the team, let them be familiar with the players.
That in particular is important, both the local and, of course,
local and foreigners based as well.
I had a chance to look at the national website, and I thought it was very well done. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate the content in there as well. So apart from that, is it also under your mandate to create national unity and create that support system? I'm just asking.
Well, yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, I also work with a team of other people as well. I mean, I get most of the content, but in terms of the graphics and stuff that goes on the website, there are other people responsible for that. But in terms of the whole unity, yes, the national team is something that the country back home, they're very proud. I would say the number one sport in Dominica, football. Cricket will probably come second. And, whenever the national team...
Cricket is always second, don't worry.
Whenever the national team goes out, there's always a huge interest. Or whenever the national team is playing, there's always a huge interest. So, a lot of people tend to rally around the team.
In terms of corporate Dominica, and of course, you'll be creating the brand that they would identify. Have you been getting that same level of support?
I would say yes.
Despite the economic challenges that the whole world has, right?
I would say yes to a certain extent, but it could always be a lot better. And to me, that's part of the problems that I think a lot of the FAs, not just in Dominica, but across the Eastern Caribbean are faced with. The support from not just the private sector, but also the governments as well. I think the funding that we get from FIFA, you can consider it, I consider it a blessing and a curse in the same way. It's a curse in that a lot of people seem to have the mindset that the FAs, they get $1 million US from FIFA, so they don't need the help. And that has sort of stifled football development in the Caribbean, especially in Dominica, where I come from, where you find that a lot of the corporate citizens would probably prefer to give their monies or resources to other sports, although limited, rather than to the DFA, because they will say that the DFA has, a good father figure in FIFA to provide them with funding.
In terms of branding, the men's team, what's it called?
Men's senior national football team.
Oh, they're not called the Nature Boys or anything, so?
No.
I read an article about the Nature Girls, that's why I asked.
Well, Nature Girls, yes, but I think it's just like a bit of a cliche, but I don't think it's official that, that we're called the men's or Nature Boys. I think sometimes they refer to the girls as the Cicero Girls, so it's just something, but that's a good idea, in terms of getting something definite to market the team around.
Well, I noticed regionally, it started with
Jamaica
with the Reggae Boys, and then Trinidad had the Soca Boys.
Soca Warriors.
Soca Warriors.
Right.
And St. Lucia now has the Peter Boys.
Oh, okay. Well, I learned that one tonight.
Well, I thought now on all because I'm not sure whether they mean the Peter the Mountains or Peter the Bear. But I understand the need for branding and identifying, and I'm just wondering that if you were looking at merchandising.
But that's something that we're passionate about as well. But again, it comes with the resources. So, for example, a lot of people are able to purchase the kits for the national team, the replica uniforms. But even that too comes at a cost. And it's something that I think a lot more could be done in terms of getting it out there. I mean, there's a huge drive for it, but the cost to produce and then sell, doesn't always work out.
In terms of regional performance, and like you say, you're dealing with the men's national team, what is the perception of Dominica locally in terms of their regional capabilities and capacities?
I think a lot of people still believe in the national team. A lot of people still believe that we can do a lot better. Like I said, football is the number one sport, and the people follow the national team a lot. And they're quite disappointed. They get very passionate. Sometimes I feel maybe a bit too much, but in terms like when we lose, they can be very critical. A lot of it though can be seen as constructive criticism, and it's all just part of the public just wanting the team to do better. In recent times, we've sort of seen some improvements. We've beaten Turks and Caicos. We didn't do too well in the Nations League last year, where we dropped some points, especially against Anguilla, where on paper we should have beaten Anguilla. Against St. Lucia, we, fancy our chances against St. Lucia, although you probably won't agree with me. But
no, football is on the day, my brother. I always believe that, Yeah. Ask Man City about that.
but in recent times, we've seen some improvements. Like the manager mentioned the game against Panama, where we lost 2-1. The last game against Panama, we were beaten 9-0 on aggregate, 5-0 and 4-0, and then to come back and lose 2-1, that showed some improvements. And the 3 goals that were scored, one was scored by Ode Laville, and 2 goals were own goals. So it's not like Panama, really, So, and all of that came about because of a big investment in football at the time from the DFA, where it was during the COVID pandemic, and there wasn't much football going on in terms of the leagues. So resources were sort of diverted into the national team, and we had a pilot program where the national team went into training for about 6 months. So they would eat, sleep, and drink football for the 6 months. They were given time off from work, or exceptions from work, and stuff along those lines. And we saw the improvements. And that's what I've always been saying, that for us to be able to compete, we have to be able to treat the game as like professionals do. But it's a bit difficult for us because of our small-scale economies and investments into football. But I guess that's a topic for another day.
Well, unfortunately, today might be that day. In terms of that, how sustainable is that? In terms of doing these pilot programs, you see this, you see the commitment, you see the investment, and you get your results, and then you go back to your regular.
Yeah.
And most likely you will see a drop off. With that being the mode, is that a mode that we should continue looking at?
Well, I think that probably is what is needed to be done. But like I said, it probably might not be sustainable. So that's where the partnerships with the other stakeholders in football come in. And, like I said at the start, it's a bit difficult because of the small scale economies that we have. But in the perfect world that I would like to live in, I would like to see a situation where the private sector will be able to contribute more, the governments will be able to contribute more, and assist the football associations with the funding that they get from FIFA. You look at the private sector, for example, there are simple things that they can do which can help bring some immediate rewards. Maybe you may not have to invest a lot of money directly, but the players who work for the various private sector companies, for example, there could be some sort of an arrangement where they'll be able to get, if it's 6 months off from work, or half days from work, and then you're able to train, or stuff along those lines. Because it's very difficult for us in the Caribbean to compete against the bigger countries who eat, sleep, and drink football, whereas you have guys who work normal 8 to 5 jobs and then have to try to train from 5 or 6 o'clock in the night. Some people may have office jobs and it may be a bit simpler. Other people now may be doing heavy construction. And, if you're into heavy construction or something along those lines for an entire day, how much energy do you have at the night?
I'll even defend the boys who working in the bank, because if you stand on your feet for...
Right.
Yeah. No, you're preaching to the choir, but then let's look at the other side of the coin. And every point you made has been valid. But here's the question, and you being in media, probably you can answer that. What is the return for corporate Dominica to meet that?
That's a very good question. And right now I can say it's very minimal, because again, I think it's like we're probably going through the growing process, and there probably needs to be a lot more discussion between the FAs, the teams, the private sector, even government. Because I believe that the best thing that any company can have is a player being employed at their institution, being a member of the national team. In terms of how you can market that player. You can use that player also to market your goods and services. That is not really done back home, and that's part of the drop-off. So sometimes the private sector may be, like you said, may be willing to contribute, but then they're probably looking back and saying, well, it's an investment, what is in it for us? And it's probably not much. So again, it boils down to more discussion.
You mentioned the two-way street, the partnership. Does that national team, that is top and stop of the national team, or do you need to filter it all the way down to grassroots?
I think it needs to filter all the way down to the grassroots, and that's where you get the results. You don't get the results investing at the top alone. You have to start from the bottom and grow up. I want to take a simple example. In past years, whenever Dominica would play teams like the British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, at the under 15, the junior levels, Dominica would walk over these teams, in past years. This year, we were beaten by the British Virgin Islands at the under 15 level twice. And that's something that I've never seen in my 23 years of covering sports. And it all boils down to that the British Virgin Islands, they're doing something differently, and the other countries are doing something differently that we're not. They're putting more investments into the grassroots. They're putting more investments into the infrastructure. And then they're starting to get the rewards. So that's something that we have to look at in terms of if we are to develop football. We must start at the lowest level possible. I mean, from 5-6 years, academies need to be set up and properly function. You need to have coaches, qualified and stuff along those lines if you're to see results.
Garvin Richards, stick around. You stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
For the best cricket updates, analysis, and an in-depth look at the sport around the world, tune in live to Winners TV
every Tuesday from 8:30 p.m.
for Cricket Nation, the only show dedicated to cricket in St. Lucia. From the nations to the clubs, the leagues, and the players, Cricket Nation is your window to the world of cricket. So be a part of the nation.
Every Tuesday,
Live from 8:30 p.m. on Winners TV.
Having trouble with temperature in your home or establishment? Feeling uncomfortable and need some relief? Optimum Cooling would love to help. You deserve a contractor that is experienced, skilled, and affordable. Call Optimum Cooling today. We offer a wide range of all your HVAC needs that includes maintenance, repairs, supply, installation, consultation, as well as any other refrigeration services, both domestic and commercial. At Optimum Cooling, we would love to meet with you to determine how we can help. Follow Optimum Cooling on Facebook or Instagram or visit our website today. We look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome to Winners Sports Beat.
For the most comprehensive sports news broadcast, tune in to Winners Sports Beat, weeknights at 7:30 p.m. Sports Beat features the latest scores, news highlights, and interviews that keeps sports fans informed on what's happening in sports. Winners Sports Beat captures the pulse of the sports world. Watch Sports Beat for exclusive inside information and breaking news on what's really happening behind the scenes. Sports Beat covers the big games, the big plays, and the big wins. Watch Winners Sports Beat weeknights at 7:30 p.m. with daily repeats.
Winners TV is proud to bring to you Strictly Football. 1 hour of exciting football action from around the globe, taking all the highlights from St. Lucia, the English Premier League, La Liga in Spain, Ligue 1 in France, the Bundesliga in Germany, and even the Jamaica Premier League. Follow your favorite teams. You don't ever have to miss a goal. Just tune in to Winners TV at 8:30 p.m. every Monday for all the weekend action and Thursdays for the week's updates. Winners TV brings all the action to you. It's Strictly Football, the action-packed highlight show keeping you abreast with what's happening in the world of football. Winners TV is proud to bring to you Strictly Football. 1 hour of exciting football action from around the globe, taking all the highlights from St. Lucia, the English Premier League, La Liga in Spain, Ligue 1 in France, the Bundesliga in Germany, and even the Jamaica Premier League. Follow your favorite teams. You don't ever have to miss a goal. Just tune in to Winners TV at 8:30 p.m. every Monday for all the weekend action and Thursdays for the week's updates. Winners TV brings all the action to you. It's Strictly Football, the action-packed highlight show keeping you abreast with what's happening in the world of football.
Wednesday night, Opinionated. Garvin Richards is here with me. He's the media officer from the Dominica men's senior team, and it's impressive that each team has its own media officer.
Yeah.
Garvin, walk me through the experience of traveling with the team and going to those fields and seeing the whole splendor of the performance from, all the countries you've been through.
Well, I must say it was an eye-opener for me starting off. Interestingly, my first experience wasn't even with the senior national football team. It was actually with the Olympics. I was the media officer for the National Olympic team, which went to the Commonwealth Games in 2018 in Australia. And then I guess I did a good enough job. I was picked again for the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So part of it is going out there and getting to see things done differently, getting to appreciate the infrastructure in place for sports development, not just the stadium, but all of the supporting infrastructure that's needed for sports to be taken, go in the right direction. Apart from that, a lot of other things, meeting new people, being exposed to different techniques. Just looking at the coaches, for example, overseas, you see how things are done a bit differently. You get to see a lot of things where emphasis is placed on compared to where it is back home. Let's look at simple things like nutrition, just normal habits as to how you eat and drink and sleep, how you take care of your bodies, and all of the stuff of things that we take maybe for granted, or we probably don't place a lot of emphasis on it back home. It was amazing, and it was an eye-opener for me just to be out there and being able to report back home.
You talk about the infrastructure, both physical and others, et al. How far are we from bridging that gap?
Well, are you asking me regionally or locally?
Well, generally, regionally, we eat in the same plate.
All right. Well, I think locally we have a lot of work to do. I mean, things that I think is also the mindset needs to change. Like you said, when you get coaches who get more qualified, they start to see things differently as opposed to the old school methods of coaching. So sometimes, a lot of improvements may not just be physically, might also be mentally, might not also be technically in terms of skills, but in terms of being able to improve muscle-wise, with the gyms and stuff. So in terms of the infrastructure, I think we have a lot of work to do back home. There's there's a bigger need for that environment where athletes can come in and not just focus on playing the sports, but also, getting the supporting structure that they need, to get better.
We talked about the mindset. Mm-hmm. And of course, traveling with the national team, and I guess like us all, every time you see something or you learn. How quickly can we change our national collective mindsets to become professionals, or at least professionally minded, so to speak?
Wow, that's a tough question.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm not on the spot. But it's just that it's something that I've been saying back home, for so long. It's something that goes back to the policymakers, the people who are in position to make decisions financially and whatnot. I think they probably need to have, how would I say it, a greater passion for sports. When they have that greater passion, then it filters down as well. But, sometimes you find that the big corporate citizens, they're not really the big sports fans. To them, sports might probably be as a hobby or, a little, like you say, a sweat and stuff along those lines. And because of that lack of interest, they are not motivated or do not feel the need for them to want to invest locally into the sports to try to bring it up. And then you find that there are some other companies now who are headed by individuals who have a deep passion for sports. And then you see the difference. So I think that's part of the thing that we can use to bridge the gap, but I don't know how that can happen in terms of, moving CEOs, moving, people around. That's a difficult thing, but it's just that mindset needs to change.
You mentioned that part of the media officer's job is to introduce the players, mm-hmm. local and foreign base, mm-hmm. to the people, to create that bond, that or at least that awareness. Mm-hmm. Do you get any difficulties in creating a brand, especially where the foreign base is concerned?
Oh, actually, no. The foreign-based players, I mean, they revel at the opportunity to come back home and play. I mean, a number of them would hit me up, privately, and before the team is selected, hey, am I on the team? Am I team? Can you push to. I mean, they're excited. And once they get the confirmation that, okay, you're on the team, because like the manager said, they're looking at 4 or 5, no more than that. When they get that sort of confirmation, it's like, yes, they're on top of the world. And access to them has never been a problem. I look at Julian Wade, for example, who's playing in Scotland. I mean, he makes it a point of duty to send me information so that we can share with the public back home on his personal progress in Scotland. You look at Glenson Prince, for example, Brielle Thomas, who was in Trinidad. And well, Troy Jules is a newcomer, but he too also has that eagerness to want to share that information. So it's never been a problem. They look forward to representing Dominica, and they just look forward to making an impact on the team.
The foreign based players may be in an environment where the access to information and the need for visage is understandable and they know what it needs to be done. In terms of the local players, do you have that similar issue? Do you put them on, and what mediums do you use?
Okay, well, back home I work at the national radio station. That's on DBS Radio. And I'm the sports editor there. I've been the sports editor for the last 8 years there. So we tend to cover, a lot, especially football. Like you said, football is #1 spot there. And we make it a point of duty to always try to attend as many matches as possible, get the interviews with the players. So you tend to want to bring more than just the scores. You want to also bring, the match interactions. And then apart from the actual football on the field, we started to also look at how things have been impacting the players off the field. So a lot more emphasis, for example, has been placed on transfers, on injuries, on, just more into the personal aspect of the players, just to give them that voice so that, the public can feel more part of their various clubs. I would say the Premier League teams, for example, there are 10 of them. All 10 of them have huge followings. A lot of them have the replica uniforms, so they come out, they support the teams. So I think the players, they're committed into, wanting to get their voices out. They don't give any issues with that. And, the media, we tend to play our part.
So you technically have the media infrastructure, which is necessary to foster that kind of growth.
Yeah.
So let me take you down one peg, even less.
Mm-hmm.
The feeding ground.
Mm-hmm.
The feeding for the Premier League and, of course, the national team, I guess, is it in intercall? Is it high school? What do you call it?
It's all the way down to it starts at the primary school levels, but we can say the secondary schools.
Okay, so using either one, primary or secondary school, do you still pay that attention to detail in terms of the awareness?
Yeah, I mean, the sports division back home, that's the government institution to deal with that. They have robust sporting programs, and they're very good at what they do, and they have created the atmosphere that the school sports in Dominica gets a lot of attention, especially from the national radio station. So you'll find a lot of people are tuned in to find out how their alma maters, are doing. So for example, the two biggest rivalries, Dominica Grammar School and SMA, whenever these two teams play in any sport, is huge following on the media. Hey, did the SMA win today? The grammar school win today? And stuff like that. So I think the whole atmosphere for the secondary schools and primary school sports is there in terms of the attention that it gets on the media.
So media, what mediums are we talking about? Is it only digital, or are we still some old school in there?
We're still a bit old school, although steps are being taken now for social media. To be quite honest with you, I think the media in Dominica took a blow following the passage of Hurricane Maria back in 2017, and that basically took out the two main television companies. So then there was a bit of a void in that, mapping became Digicel, and then you had Flow. So Digicel and Flow, they took a lot of blows because of the hurricane, and it was quite difficult for them to step back up. So what we found happening was, we saw the traditional media, talk like the radio, print, filled the gap in the meantime. Now we're seeing the increase in social media, and a few social media platforms starting to become more popular. Also, the various teams are also using teams and schools using social media as well to further promote themselves. So we're starting to see, a bit of an improvement in that in terms of people being able to see visually what is going on.
You mentioned replica jerseys, replica kits. Does that extend on to schools as well?
Unfortunately, no. And that's something that, I wish would happen. I mean, you look at it in the United States, a lot of people would wear the Duke uniforms for basketball, Michigan for their football, the popular...
No, Colorado's. Colorado's right now. Colorado, yeah, we went Colorado right now.
All right. Well, but North Carolina, the stuff like that, they tend to rally around their schools. Unfortunately, back home, no, it's not like that. I would like to see it like that because, like I said, when you do those kind of things, it brings more interest into the sport, and then it creates a market for now the advertisers and the private sector to come on board and invest. But yeah.
Garvin, Richard, it has been a pleasure. You want to tell the people where we can see you on the Dominica team?
Well, you can check us out tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock at the Darren Sammy National Cricket Stadium. That's Dominica versus the British Virgin Islands. It's our second game in the CONCACAF Nations League. We beat the Turks and Caicos 3-0 a few weeks ago. We're looking for a similar result or even better against the BVI come tomorrow.
Are you guaranteeing a win?
I'm guaranteeing a win.
What's the scoreline?
I'm looking at 4-0. 4-0.
And you heard it here first. We know we never make mistakes. My guest, Garvin, Richard, thank you so much for coming through. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Of course, Heinrich Anselm in the background there.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, you made my evening. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out the guys in the back. Johnny, the Lone Ranger. And of course, Bagger Rhythms. Wednesday night, Opinionated. Let's do this again next week, Wednesday. Have a good one. Cheers.